What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Other Guys on the Badlands Podcast Network. Jake and Paul coming to you after a Jets win. Finally get one in the win column this season. Thank God. It was a sloppy game. We're going to talk about it. Paul, how you doing after a dub?
I'm doing the same as I'm doing after every Jets game. Win or lose, it's always extremely stressful. It's like I'm about to say, like it's not even fun. And like today really was not fun. But we still haven't gotten to the point where we can just watch and enjoy because they roll. That's really what I'm looking forward to, and I'm hoping we get. And there were a couple dark moments during yesterday's game against the Titans where like I was like, are we ever going to get to watch that? Or is just this going to be the same muck that we see every season? And it's just going to be like a little better this year and we're going to win a few more games. But luckily we got out of it and here we are. So it's all good.
Yeah, it's an interesting spot. I like that we don't immediately, the game doesn't end and we don't just start recording, which is nice because I think it gives us some time to process what we watch. And at the top level, the Jets are 1-1 through 2 weeks, which I think we all expected. I think this game did not go how many predicted, but I also think the Titans' defense is a lot better than people are giving them credit for. At least we're coming into the season.
No
And
thanks to Jamal Adams, by the way, who
oh
was
no, he had one
completely invisible
tackle.
today. I legitimately forgot he was on the Titans. And at like 4:30, 5 o'clock after the game, I was like, hey, did Jamal Adams play today? I thought he was going to play. And my brother was like, yeah, he made one hit and then he was invisible the rest of the game. So,
Yeah, that should go in our good column. And there is some good. Obviously, the Jets won. There's obviously going to be good things to come out of this game, and we will talk about those. But to start on kind of a pessimistic note, there were a couple of things from this game that I think coming into it, I think we all thought, all right, Niners lost. That was a tough game, but this is sort of like a get right game. Let's get the season on track. I think overall, like at the end of the day, the Jets needed Will Levis to bail them out to win this game. Which for getting the offense right on the second half and making some adjustments, like it is going to come down to a freak play, a Zach Wilson esque play by Will Levis that ended up really deciding this game in the long run. And so I think when you realize that, not the best win, but you'll take a dub any way you can get it.
yeah, for sure. And I just like, I'm not saying I disagree with you, but just to play devil's advocate here, like, by the same, Will Levis giveth and Will Levis taketh away also. Like he made that bomb down the sideline that should have been intercepted, but it was also objectively a good throw. Like he put it in a spot that Ridley could get it. Chuck Clark should have also gotten it, but he put that one deep. He also made a couple big scrambles. Like I think, I walked away from it just again, and I've said this already, but like again, just being thankful that we're not in that quarterback world, that volatile quarterback world. Even if Aaron Rodgers is not what we think Aaron Rodgers should be yet, or even if he never gets back there, we at least know that the brain is good and like he's going to make very solid decisions. Even the interception last week wasn't a great throw, wasn't necessarily an interception worthy throw. It just got tipped up and bounced around. And so I just like walked away feeling thankful that it's not us for once that's dealing with that quarterback volatility where they make an eye popping play and then they do something so horrendous that you can't believe your eyes. It was just nice to be on the receiving end of that for once and not worry about it. But also, yeah, like I think your both points about the Titans are good. Like they're probably a little better than we thought they were. But it's concerning that in a game that we all kind of came into, one, calling a must win in week two, and two, kind of, at least I was saying, like, I want to win this game convincingly. I don't want this to be close. And so we come off a week one win, or I'm sorry, a week one loss where we were kind of, I don't want to say okay with losing, but like there was an expectation that they might lose.
It wasn't the end of the world.
Right. But the way it looked was horrendous. And so, like, a horrendous looking loss in week one, and then, like, kind of a horrendous looking win in week two. And so, like, we still haven't really gotten the good feelings, but look, 1-1 is where we expect it to be. So,
Yeah. And obviously, there are clearly some stuff this Jets team needs to figure out, but you'd way rather want to figure it out at 1-1 than 0-2, because
Yeah.
0-2 is a real hole, especially on a short week, which we'll get to. I think the biggest stark contrast through two games that is like a different indication of where this team was in the preseason than where they are now is like the defense had a good second half. I will give them that. They had a very good second half, but I think through two games, they are not the top five defense that this team has been built on. And, I think a lot of that has to do with the play up front, which obviously the big story coming out of this game, Jermaine Johnson, Achilles injury, awful. You hate to see it. Um, he seemed to have like his head in a good place after that game, but you just know everyone was so excited after he made that year two leap, and like especially with Reddick not being in the fold, we were leaning very heavily on him, and so it just sucks to see a player like that go down. But I'm curious your thoughts on how the injury impacts the defense for the rest of the season, but also what sort of steps you want to see the defense take to show some improvement to get back to last year.
Yeah, it's funny. There was like a moment in the game where it looked like they had snapped into place. It was kind of after, they're in the first half, time of possession was lopsided again. It felt like the Aaron Rodgers was never on the field, and then the Jets got a score, and then the defense looked like it woke up a little bit, and I was sitting in my house like, oh, okay, like here we go. They just needed to shake some rust off, like. Now we're going to go for the kill shot. Offense is going to get the ball back. And then offense went 3 and out. And we were kind of just back into a rock fight. But there was like a brief glimmer where it looked really good. I think, yeah, number one, it's what's going on up front is not, we just don't have the same group that we had last year. And it's obvious that this group isn't as good as last year's group. And without Reddick, that difference becomes even bigger. DJ Reed's also hurt. Mosley's been banged up in both games. Sauce was banged up last week, and then he didn't really play well this week. And now Jermaine Johnson. And so I think like this is something that we've mentioned a few times in the last 2 years is like how remarkably healthy the Jets defense had been and how lucky they had been injury wise. I think we even said it in the season preview this year of like really nobody missed significant time last year. Sauce had that concussion that lasted a little bit longer than we all thought it would. But they slid in with, Craig James and all these like weird corners who stepped in and played great games against the Eagles. And I think like the law of averages is kind of coming for us a little bit on the injury side. And so like, this is probably going to be a long season of injuries for the defense because they have some catching up to do to regress back to the mean. And as far as like, what's the one spot that you really couldn't afford to lose somebody? Like it's probably Jermaine Johnson is probably like the most vulnerable position that we had because we're already struggling on the other edge, running Clemens out there too many times. On Connor and Joe's podcast, they were talking about the possibility of sliding Saul Thomas down to D end and then like elevating one of the undrafted guys to play in the middle, which is like, man, that's a grim scenario to be in week 3. And so like, then it becomes, it's not just about Reddick. Like there's probably some more that needs to happen as well. Like Brady McGregor needs to like legitimately step up. Tack McKinley probably needs to step up. Like it's going to kind of go on everybody at this point because you're not filling in Jermaine Johnson with Hassan Reddick when Hassan Reddick was also already like trying to be the guy that fills in for Bryce Huff, right? So like all of a sudden we have like a falling Jenga tower now and we need to figure out where we can plug the gaps as fast as possible. And for Thursday, it's just going to be like a get through it scenario. And unfortunately, we'll talk more about the Patriots later, but like, Thursday is going to be another one that I think just based on the history of the last 25 years, like everybody does not just want to win on Thursday. They want pain. They want embarrassment, all that good stuff. It's a home opener. And like, we're probably not going to get that again. And, again, we'll talk more about the Patriots, but it's a tough scene right now on defense.
Yeah, it's tough. And today was not Sauce's best game either. And like, we're really going to need the back half of the defense to be absolutely locked down because we've been getting the ball run all over us last couple games. And I don't think that's getting any better. So we're really going to need the pass game to step their shit up or pass defense, I should say. Let's move on to some good stuff. And I know there's still some more faults in this game that we'll get to, but it is a win. So I don't want to start too much in on all the negatives. The Jets offense looked clunky today, but they have 3 touchdowns in back-to-back games, which Joe posted this on Twitter. Like, as a Jets fan, 1-1, but having an offense that can consistently put up 21 points, if the defense can get there, and I do think Saleh is a good enough defensive coach that they can get there, that kind of consistency is kind of unheard of in like modern Jets era. You saw a stat about I think it was our guy Steven Zantz pointed out, when's the last time the Jets had 6 touchdowns this early in the season?
Yeah, and like so somebody did the math on it. Shout out to Kaifi Abdullah on here. 2 games this year, and then 2023, 2022, 2021, and 2020 it took 4 games, and in 2019 it took 7 games, which is
Yeah.
hysterical that it took 7 games to get 6 touchdowns. And that's like another one of those Jet stats that are always floating around, especially when they play on national television. It's always like, hey, like, look at this embarrassing thing about the Jets franchise. And there's a bunch of these coming out of today's game. For instance, both Breece Hall and Braylon Allen caught touchdown passes for the Jets in Tennessee. It's the first time New York had 2 running backs with touchdown catches in a game since Johnny Johnson and Richie Anderson in Week 3 in 1994. The Jets, it was the first road game with, or no, sorry, this is something else. What was the other one I was looking for?
The other one, so this is a Rodgers centric stat, but the last time it was the Jets had quarterbacks throw for multiple touchdowns in back to back weeks.
Oh, yes.
2021 with Mike White and Josh Johnson.
Yes, exactly. The Bengals game and the Colts game, where Mike White played the Bengals game and then got hurt in the Colts game, and Josh Johnson came in. And then, like, for the next 2 weeks after that, we were all living in the world of, why does everybody look good running Mike LaFleur's offense except Zach Wilson, which is just insane. So, yeah, I mean, look, like, it didn't look good, but here we are, 6 touchdowns, 2 weeks. They scored against what is one of the top 5 defenses in the NFL in San Francisco. Not enough, but they scored. One of them was in garbage time. And then we got a couple touchdowns against, what I think looks like a pretty good defense in Tennessee as well. So, like, it's this weird place where it's like, okay, we're 1-1. Things are not on fire. Everything's okay. It just doesn't look as good as we all hoped and expected that it would look. And that's okay. We have like 2 major guys coming, or 3 major guys if you count AVT. I was just thinking about skill positions, but 3 major guys coming off major injuries who are going to take some time. One of them is 40 years old. Mike Williams is a guy that's always kind of banged up. AVT has had him in back-to-back years, right? So, like, it's okay, but it just doesn't feel good.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought up Mike Williams there too, because his like 50-50 ball catch was a massive turning point.
Insane.